The walls of my small apartment felt like they were closing in, the faint hum of the city below barely audible over the chaos in my mind. I sat on the edge of my bed, surrounded by scattered photographs from my time at the tech company, each one a reminder of the excitement I once felt. My fingers brushed over a picture of my team celebrating a project launch, smiles wide, but the memory twisted into a bitter knot in my stomach. I had been so proud, so full of hope, and now I was just discarded like yesterday's news. I could still hear the laughter echoing from the last office party I attended, a melody that felt like a cruel joke now. As I replayed the moment when I awkwardly laughed at a joke made by my boss, I could see the way the others had looked at me, pity mixed with amusement. I wasn't part of their world anymore. I was an outsider, a ghost haunting the halls where I had once thrived. My heart raced with a mix of confusion and frustration as I realized how easily I had been swept aside. The gift I received at the baby shower last week lingered in my mind, a thoughtful gesture that had felt so hollow. It was a framed motivational quote, something about perseverance and believing in oneself. At the time I had smiled, but now it felt like a mockery of my situation. I had poured everything into that company, and yet here I was, jobless and questioning my worth. Sitting in the dark, I could feel the weight of my choices pressing down on me. I had spent years trying to prove myself, only to be met with betrayal. I wanted to scream, to lash out against the faceless corporate machine that had chewed me up and spat me out. But in that moment, all I could do was sit in silence, the echoes of my past swirling around me, urging me to take action. The tension between my desire to feel valued and the reality of my situation gnawed at me. I was at a crossroads, and whatever path I chose would define the next chapter of my life. The thought of revenge flickered in my mind like a neon sign, bright and alluring. I wanted to reclaim my sense of worth, to show them that they had made a mistake, but at what cost? My heart raced with uncertainty as I contemplated the chaos that might ensue. As I glanced at the photos again, I knew I had to make a decision. I could either wallow in my misery or rise from the ashes of my shattered dreams. The stage was set for my next move, and I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, mingling with the fear of what lay ahead. Whatever I chose, it would change everything. Sitting in the dimly lit corner of a coffee shop, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the sweet scent of pastries, but all I could taste was bitterness. I stared out the window, watching the world move on without me, each passerby a reminder of the life I had once envisioned. My fingers wrapped tightly around the warm cup, the heat contrasting with the chill that had settled in my chest. I was adrift, haunted by the expectations of my mother, who always insisted that I pursue a more stable career. "You should have gone into finance, Nicole," she would say, her voice echoing in my mind, dismissing my passion for technology like it was a fleeting whim. The memories of our last confrontation flashed vividly before me. I had stormed into her house, my heart pounding with anger and frustration. "You don't understand. This isn't just a job to me," I had shouted, my voice breaking under the weight of my emotions. She stood there, arms crossed, her face a mask of disappointment. "All I want is for you to succeed. This tech world is brutal, Nicole. It chews people up and spits them out. You need to be realistic." Her words were like daggers, each one piercing through my resolve. I felt as if I was caught in a web of her expectations, struggling to break free while simultaneously wanting her approval. Those moments replayed in my mind as I took a deep breath, trying to steady my racing heart. The coffee shop felt stifling, the laughter and chatter around me fading into a dull roar. I had to prove my worth, to show not just her but also myself that I was more than what they had made me feel. I wanted to rise above the corporate machine that had cast me aside. The thought of revenge simmered beneath my skin, igniting a fire that had been dormant for far too long. The weight of despair began to lift slightly, replaced by a burgeoning determination. I recalled the private breakdown I had experienced just days after my termination. Alone in my apartment, I had let the tears flow, the reality of my situation crashing down like an avalanche. I had felt so small, so insignificant, but in that moment of vulnerability I had also felt a flicker of strength. I couldn't let this be my end. I needed to take action, to reclaim my narrative, and perhaps, just perhaps, the chaos I was contemplating could lead to a new beginning. As I finished my coffee, the decision crystallized in my mind. I would confront my past, face the company that had belittled my efforts, and make them acknowledge my existence. I stood up, the chair scraping against the floor, the sound echoing in the stillness of my resolve. It was time to take back what was rightfully mine and prove that I would not be easily forgotten. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but I felt a surge of adrenaline. I was ready to fight for my place in this world, regardless of the consequences. The sterile office walls felt suffocating as I stared at my former boss, Mark, across the table. The fluorescent lights cast a harsh glare, illuminating the tension in the air. My palms were clammy against the cool surface of the table, and I could hear the faint hum of the air conditioning, a constant reminder of the corporate machine I was up against. I was determined to reclaim my power, but the taste of anger was sharp in my mouth. Mark adjusted his tie, a nervous habit as he avoided my gaze. The echoes of my termination still stung, and I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks as I prepared to confront him. "Nicole, it's not personal. We had to make cuts and," he began, his voice dripping with insincerity. I could see the way his eyes flickered to the door, as if he was already planning his escape from this uncomfortable confrontation. "You know how it is in this industry," he continued, but I cut him off, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "How could you say that? I poured my heart and soul into this company, and you just tossed me aside like I was nothing." The words erupted from me, raw and unfiltered. I was done with corporate jargon and excuses. I wanted him to feel the weight of my betrayal, to understand the injustice I had faced. His expression hardened, and I could see the walls go up around him. He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms defensively. "You were just one of many, Nicole. We all have to make sacrifices for the greater good of the company," he replied, his tone dismissive. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, each beat a reminder of the fight I was willing to take on. The injustice of it all was suffocating, and I wanted to scream at him, to shake him until he understood the chaos he had caused in my life. As I left the meeting, the weight of our exchange hung over me. I had wanted to confront him, to make my voice heard, but instead I felt even more powerless. I could still hear his condescending tone echoing in my ears, the way he had belittled my hard work as if it was nothing more than a joke. I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms as I walked through the corridors, each step a reminder of my determination to reclaim what was mine. That night I sat at my computer, the glow of the screen illuminating my face in the darkened room. The soft clicking of keys filled the silence as I began to code, pouring my frustration into lines of programming that felt like a lifeline. It was late and the world outside was quiet, but inside me, a storm raged. Each keystroke was a rebellion against the injustice I had faced, a way to channel my anger into something powerful. I was still grappling with the consequences of my confrontation earlier that day, but I couldn't shake the feeling of resolve that had taken hold of me. I was done playing the victim. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins, igniting a fire within me that had previously been extinguished by self-doubt. I was reclaiming my narrative, writing my own story that would no longer be defined by corporate betrayal. As the clock ticked away, I found myself lost in the rhythm of my coding, each line a step closer to my next move. The late-night air was thick with determination, and I could almost taste the victory that lay ahead. I was ready to take on the company that had cast me aside, to show them that I was more than just a number in their database. The plan was forming, and with it, a sense of empowerment that I had long thought was lost. I would not be silenced or forgotten. This was just the beginning of my fight against the injustice I had faced. The glow of my computer screen felt like a spotlight in the otherwise dark room, illuminating the chaos of my thoughts. I sat hunched over my keyboard, the soft clicking of the keys echoing in my ears, but my mind was a battlefield of conflicting emotions. I had spent countless hours planning my revenge, meticulously outlining every detail, every line of code that would replace the very database that had once held my professional identity hostage. Yet beneath the thrill of plotting my next move, a gnawing sense of guilt clawed at the edges of my mind. I pushed the chair back, feeling the rough texture of the fabric against my fingertips, and stood up abruptly. My heart raced as I paced the small confines of my apartment, each step echoing the turmoil within me. The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing down on me as I replayed my conversations with Emily, my best friend who had been both my cheerleader and my conscience. "You deserve this, Nicole," she had said, her enthusiasm almost contagious, but I couldn't shake the apprehension that lingered like a shadow. What if my actions led to consequences I wasn't prepared to face? A flashback hit me, vivid and unrelenting, the last time I had confided in Emily about my plan. We were sitting at her kitchen table, the smell of brewing coffee filling the air as I laid out my intentions. "What if they don't see it coming?" I had asked, my voice laced with a mix of excitement and fear. She had leaned forward, her eyes wide with anticipation. "Then it'll be the perfect revenge. Show them what you're capable of." But now, in the solitude of my apartment, that enthusiasm felt like a heavy weight on my conscience. My breathing grew uneven as I considered the moral implications of my next steps. "Am I really any better than they are?" I whispered to myself, the question hanging in the air like a specter. The thought of becoming what I despised was a bitter pill to swallow. Each keystroke felt like a betrayal not only to them but also to the values I had once held dear. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through our previous conversations, searching for some reassurance, some sign that this path was justified. I thought about my mother's voice, filled with concern and criticism. She would have called this madness, and perhaps she was right. I could see her disapproving gaze, hear her dismissive remarks about my career choices and the potential fallout of my actions. "Is this really what you want, Nicole?" I could almost hear her asking. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, and I clenched my fists, fighting against the rising tide of doubt that threatened to drown my resolve. Just as I was about to spiral further into despair, the phone buzzed in my hand, pulling me back to the present. It was Emily, a simple message. "You've got this, remember why you started." Her unwavering faith reignited the fire within me, but it didn't extinguish the flicker of doubt. I sat back down, feeling the cool surface of the desk against my palms, and closed my eyes, taking a deep breath to steady my racing heart. The final trigger came unexpectedly, as if a switch had flipped in my mind. I envisioned the moment I would launch my plan, the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I executed each line of code. The thrill of the impending chaos felt intoxicating, overshadowing the guilt that still gnawed at me. I opened my eyes, the glow of the screen illuminating my determined expression. I was ready to embrace the storm, to dive headfirst into the tumult that lay ahead. This was more than revenge, it was a reclamation of my identity. The company may have tried to erase me, but I would rise from the ashes no matter the cost. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the park where I found myself seated on a weathered bench, the rough wood beneath me a stark contrast to the softness of the grass. The scent of blooming flowers filled the air, but their beauty felt distant, overshadowed by the turmoil in my heart. As I watched children playing, their laughter a melody of innocence, I grappled with my choices. I had spent countless hours plotting revenge, but now, in this moment of quiet reflection, a flicker of hope emerged amidst the chaos. Would there be a way to resolve this without unleashing the storm I had prepared? I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I scrolled to Jake's number. The thought of discussing my plans with him sent a wave of anxiety washing over me. What would he think? I could almost hear his voice, filled with concern, urging me to reconsider my path. Taking a deep breath, I dialed. The phone rang, the sound echoing my racing heartbeat. When he answered, his familiar voice brought a warmth I desperately needed. "Hey Nicole, what's up?" "Jake, I've been thinking about everything, about my plan, about us. I don't want to hurt anyone, but I feel so lost. It's like I'm at a crossroads and I don't know which way to turn," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. The silence on the other end felt heavy, and I could almost hear him processing my words. "Nicole, I understand you want to make a statement, but revenge can be a slippery slope. You could lose so much more than just your job. You have to think about the consequences, not just for yourself but for those around you," he replied, his concern palpable. I felt a tightening in my chest, a battle between my desire for vindication and the love I felt for him. "I know, but they've taken so much from me. I want them to pay for what they did, but maybe there's another way," I said, my voice cracking as I struggled to keep my emotions in check. The thought of losing everything, including Jake, sent a shiver down my spine. What if you focused on building something new instead? "You're brilliant, Nicole. You could create something that proves your worth without tearing down the past. You have so much potential, don't waste it on revenge," he suggested, his voice steady, filled with the kind of encouragement I needed. I could almost see him nodding, urging me to take a different path, and yet the yearning for justice still pulsed within me. As we hung up, I felt a mix of hope and anxiety. The park, once a place of solace, now felt like a battleground of conflicting emotions. I needed to find a resolution that didn't involve destruction, but could I truly let go of the desire for revenge? The tension within me grew as I stood up, the weight of my decision pressing down like the looming clouds above. I had to assemble a plan, one that would allow me to take control without sacrificing my integrity. It was a delicate balance, and I had to tread carefully, aware that the next steps I took could change everything. The quiet of my apartment felt suffocating, the ambient glow from my laptop screen casting shadows that danced eerily around me. I could hear the rhythmic tapping of my fingers against the keyboard, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my mind. Each line of code I constructed felt like a lifeline, a bridge leading me toward the revenge I had meticulously plotted. But beneath the surface of my determination lurked an undercurrent of fear, tugging at my resolve like a persistent wave threatening to pull me under. With every keystroke, I envisioned the moment I would unleash my plan upon the company that had discarded me so callously. My heart raced, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I imagined their stunned faces when they realized what I was about to do. Yet, doubt crept in. Was I truly ready to embrace the chaos? My mind flickered back to Jake's voice, filled with caution, urging me to consider the consequences of my actions. I could almost hear the concern lacing his words, a reminder that this was not just about me. As I sat there, a confrontation with Jake loomed in my thoughts. The weight of our last conversation hung heavily in the air, and I knew I had to face him before I crossed this irreversible line. I took a deep breath, feeling the rough texture of the desk beneath my palms, bracing myself for what would surely be a difficult discussion. I needed to confront him about my plans, to gauge whether he would stand beside me or urge me to rethink my path. When I called him, my heart thudded loudly in my chest, each ring feeling like a countdown to an uncertain future. "Hey Nicole, what's going on?" Jake's voice was warm, but I sensed the tension under the surface. "Jake, I feel like I'm about to do something drastic, and I need to know where you stand. I want to go through with my plan against the company, but I don't want to lose you in the process," I confessed, my voice trembling as I laid my vulnerability bare. His response was immediate, filled with concern but also a hint of understanding. "Nicole, I'm here for you, but revenge can blur the lines between right and wrong. You have to think about what happens next. Are you sure this is the path you want to take?" His words struck deep, and I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down on me, but the fire of retribution ignited within me. I had reached a point of no return, and the thrill of executing my plan was intoxicating. The showdown was inevitable, and as I hung up, a sense of clarity washed over me. I was prepared to step into the storm, embracing both the fear and the determination that fueled my resolve. The next moments would define me, and as I turned back to my computer, I knew I was ready to execute my plan. This was it, my chance to reclaim my power and rewrite my narrative, no matter the consequences. "This ends with me." The late-night glow of my desk lamp cast long shadows on the walls, illuminating the chaos of crumpled papers and half-opened coding books scattered around me. The faint sound of the city outside filtered through my window, a distant hum that felt like a heartbeat, reminding me that life continued beyond these four walls. I took a deep breath, my heart racing with the thrill of what I was about to do. This was it, the moment I would transform my pain into power, my despair into action. I stood up, the coolness of the floor sending a shiver up my spine as I walked over to the whiteboard propped against the wall. The surface was cluttered with hastily scribbled notes and diagrams, each line a testament to my sleepless nights spent plotting my revenge. I picked up a marker, the scent of dry erase ink filling my nostrils, and began to outline my plan in bold strokes. Step 1, infiltrate the system. Step 2, initiate the code loop. Step 3, erase all data. Step 4, expose their secrets. Each step felt electrifying, but underneath the excitement lay a current of anxiety. What if I got caught? What if I lost my freedom for this? I clenched my fists, the tension in my body palpable as I battled with the weight of my choices. Memories of my mother's disapproving gaze flashed through my mind, her voice echoing warnings of the consequences that could follow. Would she ever understand that this was my way of reclaiming my life? The door creaked open, and Emily stepped inside, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Hey, you look intense." "What's going on?" she asked, her enthusiasm brightening the dim room. I gestured toward the whiteboard, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "I'm planning my revenge, Em. I think I can do it." "I can take them down," I replied, my voice barely masking the urgency pulsing through me. She leaned closer, examining my notes. "This is ambitious, but are you sure this is the right way? What if it backfires?" I could see the concern etched on her face, and it made me pause. The truth was, I had never felt more alive yet terrified at the same time. The prospect of success danced in my mind, but so did the fear of the fallout. I took a deep breath, knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. We spent the next few hours brainstorming, the atmosphere charged with adrenaline and uncertainty. Each idea was met with laughter and nervous glances as we considered the possibilities. It felt like we were on the brink of something monumental, yet the stakes were higher than I had ever imagined. I wanted to succeed, to prove my worth, but at what cost? The question lingered ominously as I prepared for the execution of my plan, the weight of my decision settling heavily on my shoulders. The fluorescent lights buzzed above me, a mechanical hum that blended with the rapid thudding of my heart as I stepped into the sleek, glass-walled headquarters of my former company. The scent of polished wood and stale coffee filled the air, a stark reminder of the sterile environment I had once called home. I could almost taste the bitterness of betrayal lingering on my tongue, fueling my determination. I had meticulously crafted this moment, and now it was time to execute my plan. With every step, I could feel the adrenaline pulsing through my veins, heightening my senses as I approached the server room. The cool metal of the door handle sent a shiver up my spine, a tangible connection to the danger that lay ahead. I paused for a moment, remembering the countless nights I had spent coding in solitude, the flickering screen illuminating my face as I poured my anguish into each line of code. This was my chance to reclaim what had been stolen from me, a chance to expose the hypocrisy of the corporate world that had discarded me. I took a deep breath, my fingers trembling slightly as I keyed in the access code I had painstakingly acquired. The door clicked open, revealing rows of servers, their blinking lights a heartbeat of the company's lifeblood. I stepped inside, the hum of the machines resonating in my chest, a symphony of power and control. In that moment, I felt invincible, a warrior ready to wage battle against the system that had betrayed me. As I connected my laptop to the mainframe, my mind raced with thoughts of what I was about to unleash. The code I had written was a double-edged sword, a weapon I had forged from my pain and anger. It would disrupt the entire network, deleting critical data and replacing it with a message that would echo through the halls of the company. A message that would remind them of my worth, of the value they had overlooked. My fingers danced over the keyboard, the familiar rhythm calming my nerves as I initiated the sequence. With each keystroke, I felt a surge of satisfaction coursing through me, drowning out the lingering doubt that whispered in the back of my mind. I was no longer the victim, I was the architect of my destiny. But just as I reached the final command, the sharp sound of footsteps echoed down the corridor, a stark reminder of the risk I was taking. My heart raced as I glanced towards the door, the thrill of the impending chaos mingling with the fear of being caught. I had come too far to turn back now. I pressed enter, the screen flashing as the plan executed. The exhilaration was immediate, a rush of power that surged through me as I watched the code take effect. The lights in the server room flickered, and I could hear the distant sounds of alarms blaring throughout the building. It was working. I was dismantling their empire from the inside out, but amidst the adrenaline, a pang of uncertainty hit me. I was crossing a line, one that could never be uncrossed. As I prepared to make my escape, I glanced back at the screens, now rapidly filling with error messages and my defiant declaration, a testament to my existence. I couldn't help but feel a mix of triumph and dread. I had achieved what I set out to do, but at what cost? I turned and rushed out of the room, adrenaline coursing through me as I navigated the halls, the chaos of my actions trailing in my wake. In those fleeting moments, I realized this was not merely an act of revenge, it was my awakening. I was reclaiming my identity, and as I burst through the exit, the cool air hit my face like a breath of fresh hope. I had taken control of my narrative, but the aftermath awaited. The consequences of my actions loomed on the horizon, and I was left to face the uncertainty of what was to come next. The silence in my apartment felt deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos I had unleashed just hours before. I sank onto my worn-out couch, its fabric rough against my skin, and stared blankly at the wall, the weight of my actions pressing heavily on my chest. The thrill of executing my plan had given way to a gnawing anxiety that twisted my stomach into knots. I could still hear the alarms blaring in my mind, a haunting reminder of the lines I had crossed. My heart raced as I replayed the moments of chaos, the exhilaration of power now mingling with a bitter taste of regret. As the adrenaline wore off, flashes of the aftermath began to seep into my thoughts. I envisioned the panic spreading through the company, the frantic scramble to restore order, and the inevitable fallout that would ripple through my life. I had wanted to make a statement, to prove my worth, but now I could feel the shadows of uncertainty creeping in. Would I be arrested? Would my actions cost me everything, including the people I cared about? Just then, my phone buzzed on the coffee table, and I hesitated before picking it up. Jake's name flashed on the screen, and a wave of anxiety washed over me. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that awaited. "Hey, Nicole," he said, his voice filled with an edge of concern. "I've been trying to reach you." "What happened?" I swallowed hard, the truth feeling like a weight in my throat. I did it, Jake. I executed the plan. I took down their database," I confessed, my voice trembling as I spoke. There was a long pause on the other end, and I could almost hear him processing the gravity of my words. "Nicole, you need to understand the implications of this. You could be in serious trouble. Have you thought about what this means for your future?" His voice was steady, but I could hear the worry laced within it. I felt my heart constrict at the thought of losing him, and I realized that in my quest for revenge, I might have jeopardized everything I held dear. I thought I could reclaim my worth, show them they were wrong to discard me, but now I just feel lost, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. The chaos I had created was not just external. It was swirling within me, a storm of emotions that I couldn't escape. Jake's response was soft yet firm. "You have to take responsibility for your actions, Nicole, but there's still a chance to make things right. You can choose a different path, one that doesn't involve destruction. You're more than this, and I believe in you." His words wrapped around me like a lifeline, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the turmoil. As we ended the call, I leaned back against the couch, feeling the tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I realized that I needed to find a way to navigate the chaos I had caused, to seek a resolution that didn't end in despair. My heart ached with the weight of my decisions, but deep down, I knew I could forge a new path forward. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I was determined to seek redemption, to transform the chaos of my actions into something meaningful. I would not let this be the end of my story. It was merely a turning point, a chance to redefine my future. The soft glow of my laptop screen illuminated the room, casting gentle shadows that danced across the walls. I sat at my desk, the remnants of my chaotic journey swirling in my mind. The scent of fresh coffee lingered in the air, a comforting reminder of the late nights I had spent plotting my revenge. Now, as I reflected on everything that had transpired, a sense of peace began to settle within me. I had faced the storm, and while the aftermath was still unfolding, I felt a newfound clarity emerging from the chaos. I opened my social media account, my fingers hovering over the keyboard as I prepared to share my story with the world. The weight of my actions bore down on me, but I knew I had to speak out. I wanted others to understand the fine line between empowerment and destruction, to see that even in our darkest moments, there is potential for growth. As I typed, my heart raced with a mix of vulnerability and hope, knowing that my words could resonate with those who felt lost and unheard. As I hit post, a wave of